Don't take it off, just do it. Yet the rancher undid it anyway and took action. Rancher Jace Corin squinted against the morning glare as he guided a small herd of synth livestock across the cracked terrain. These animals weren't ordinary. They were engineered to survive in Iridian 7 harsh climate, producing nutrient-rich milk that sustained the colony. Jace had spent years raising them, learning to understand their moods, their patterns, their needs. The quiet hum of the settlement behind him was comforting. Human ingenuity had carved this colony out of a hostile world. Domed habitats, energy fields, and irrigation channels dotted the landscape. But out here on the open plains, it was just him, the herd, and the untamed wilderness. A sharp beep interrupted his thoughts. Jace reached down and pulled a small communicator from his belt. The display flickered with a holographic image. Trelna, the colony's alien liaison, hovered in the air before him. Her 4 translucent limbs shimmered in the sunlight, each ending in delicate, flexible tips. Her voice was calm but firm. "Jace Corin," she said. "We have a delivery for you. It is important. You must not remove it once applied. Just do as instructed." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Apply what, and why the drama?" Trelna's limbs twitched nervously. "It is a protective device. It will help you survive unexpected hazards." "We cannot explain fully. Trust the instructions. Do not remove it." Jace rubbed his chin. Humans had always been cautious about alien technology, but curiosity ran deep in his veins. He glanced at the small, glowing object floating next to Trelna's projection. It was about the size of a palm, with faint lines of blue light tracing its surface. "Looks fancy," he muttered. "And you're telling me I can't take it off, got it. But why does it feel like a warning instead of an offer?" Trelna's eyes flickered. "Because warnings are necessary. Iridian 7 is not forgiving. You will understand soon." With that, the projection vanished, leaving Jace staring at the empty air. He shook his head. Curiosity and maybe a hint of stubbornness bubbled inside him. He grabbed the device, turning it over in his hands. It was warm, almost alive, and seemed to pulse faintly with energy. By midday, Jace had reached the edge of the grazing plains. The herd grazed peacefully, but the silence felt heavy, almost watchful. He set the device on the ground, studying it carefully. A small interface lit up when he touched it, displaying symbols he couldn't recognize. The instructions Trelna had given him were simple: strap it on, follow the prompts, and do not remove it. Jace sighed. "Easy enough," he muttered. He strapped the device to his wrist, feeling it click snugly against his skin. Almost immediately, a gentle vibration ran up his arm. The blue lines glowed brighter, tracing patterns across his skin like veins of light. He froze. The hum was low but deep, vibrating not just against his body, but somehow inside him. His pulse quickened. Was it working? He wasn't sure, but instinct told him to follow through. He tapped the interface as instructed, and then something strange happened. The world shifted. Not physically, but perceptually. Jace's hearing sharpened. He could hear the distant rushing of wind through rock canyons miles away. The subtle footfalls of the herd on cracked earth became distinct beats in the symphony of the plains. Even the faint signals of alien life around the colony felt clearer. It was overwhelming at first, and he stumbled back, gripping his wrist. "Whoa," he muttered. "This is new." Then came the warning flash from the device, "Do not remove." Jace's stubborn nature flared. He wanted to see what would happen if he untied the strap, if he undid the clasp just a little. Just a small test. He hesitated for a moment, remembering Trelna's voice. "Do not remove it." But human instinct, curiosity, daring, the need to understand by doing rather than waiting was too strong. With a deep breath, he loosened the clasp. The moment the strap came free, the device surged. Energy shot through his arm, spreading rapidly through his nervous system. Pain and pleasure intertwined, and for a split second the world exploded in colors he had no words for. Then, suddenly, clarity. Jace's mind was sharper. Every detail around him felt magnified. He could see the smallest changes in the herd's behavior, notice the subtle signs of predator movements far across the plains, detect the faint electromagnetic signals of alien drones that had gone unnoticed. He felt alive in a way that terrified and thrilled him at once. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. "What the hell?" he whispered. The device, now partially separated from his body, still glowed faintly. His instincts screamed at him to put it back, but he didn't. Humans, Jace reminded himself, thrived on taking action when necessary. Hesitation could be deadly. Hours passed, and the rancher explored his new senses. He could track the herd with nothing but sound and scent, detect shifts in wind currents that signaled danger, and even predict the movements of small predators scuttling across the terrain. He realized, with a mixture of awe and fear, that humans were capable of adapting to whatever the universe threw at them, perhaps faster than any other species. That evening, the colony's alarm systems went off. Distant sensors had detected a predator drone moving toward the plains. The aliens relied on algorithms and fixed protocols to handle such threats. But Jace, he relied on instinct, sharpened beyond normal limits. He moved through the herd, positioning them strategically, ready to confront the drone before it even arrived. The device, still humming faintly on his wrist, pulsed as if in agreement. The rancher grinned. Humans were not the fastest, or the strongest, or the most intelligent species. At least, the aliens believed that. But humans were adaptable, resourceful, and willing to act when others hesitated. The drone appeared on the horizon, metallic and sleek, scanning for life forms to eliminate. Jace didn't wait. He sprinted across the plains with unearthly precision, guiding the herd into protective formations and setting up traps using natural terrain. The drone fired pulses of energy, but Jace's enhanced perception allowed him to dodge with ease. Every move felt like instinct, every decision immediate and perfect. By nightfall, the drone was disabled, tangled in a trap that Jace had improvised from rocks, debris, and his knowledge of predator patterns. He stood among the grazing herd, sweat running down his face, and let out a laugh, half relief, half triumph. The aliens would have been proud of the methodical approach, but Jace knew that humans worked differently. They thrived on bold moves, action over hesitation, instinct over protocol. And for the first time, he felt a strange kinship with the device that had altered him. Maybe it wasn't about rules or warnings. Maybe it was about unlocking potential and trusting oneself. That night, under the twin moons of Iridian 7, Jace Corin sat by a small fire, the herd resting nearby. He stared at the device, now quiet and dim, and whispered, "I guess, sometimes you have to take action even when told not to." And somewhere in the colony, Trelna observed from afar, her limbs trembling. Humans were unpredictable. That unpredictability, Jace realized, might just be the greatest strength of all. The morning sun had not yet crested the jagged horizon of Iridian 7, but Jace Corin was already awake. His senses were alive in ways he still struggled to explain. The plains whispered secrets to him, the subtle rustle of distant creatures, the shifting patterns of wind, and even the faint hum of alien machinery from the colony several miles away. He flexed his hand where the device had left a faint glow beneath his skin. Though he had removed the strap the day before, a residual energy lingered, threading through his nerves and muscles. Jace had spent all night pacing around the small fire, thinking. The device, whatever it was, had unlocked something in him. Humans were always adaptable, but now his instincts felt amplified, almost preternatural. Every decision, every observation came to him with startling clarity, yet he also felt a strange unease. The aliens had warned him, yet he had ignored them. That stubbornness, that desire to act rather than wait, it had served him before, but what if this time it came at a cost? He pushed the thought aside. Humans thrived in uncertainty. That had always been their strength. By mid-morning, the colony's sensors reported activity near the northern plains. Jace squinted toward the distant hills. Something was moving. Not natural wildlife, too large, too deliberate. The aliens called them recon drones, sleek, metallic predators designed to test defenses and weaken outlying settlements. Most humans would panic, but Jace felt excitement. His enhanced senses tingled with anticipation. He grabbed his energy rifle, checking the ammo feed with meticulous care. But he knew the weapon would not be enough. Survival required improvisation, and improvisation was a human specialty. As he moved toward the northern ridge, Jace's enhanced hearing picked up the faint whine of drone engines long before any sensors could detect them. He crouched behind a jagged rock, surveying the plains. The drone approached, scanning for movement, and Jace realized he could anticipate its trajectory. Its mechanical logic was rigid, predictable. Humans, in contrast, were chaotic. They could think beyond patterns. A smile crept across his face. "Time to teach them a little chaos," he muttered. He began improvising a trap using the terrain. The plains were littered with jagged rocks and dry shrubs, all of which could serve as obstacles. He dug shallow pits covered with dust, positioned rocks to trip sensors, and guided smaller wildlife towards specific areas. His movements were precise, almost instinctual yet adaptive. Every choice was informed by a combination of instinct and observation, a fusion that humans had mastered over millennia. The drone drew closer, scanning for life. Its metallic sensors flickered as it detected the subtle disturbances Jace had set up. For a moment it hesitated, but its programming drove it forward. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but drones were built to overcome variables, or so their makers thought. Jace's enhanced vision picked up a flaw in its approach. The drone relied heavily on visual cues. By creating subtle distractions, small dust clouds, shifted rocks, even a decoy animal, he could manipulate its path. He executed the plan flawlessly, luring the drone into the shallow pits. Its heavy body struck the rocks and shrubs, stumbling, whirring, and emitting sparks. Then came the final move. Jace hurled a small electromagnetic pulse grenade he had scavenged from the colony's storage. The device activated with a satisfying hiss, sending a wave of interference that shorted the drone's circuits. Sparks flew, and the drone collapsed in the dust. Jace approached cautiously, rifle at the ready, but it remained inert. Victory was his. He exhaled, heart pounding with exhilaration. The herd, calm and unharmed, grazed nearby. Humans were not the fastest or strongest species in the galaxy, but they were resilient, creative, and fearless in action, traits no machine could replicate. The aliens arrived later that day. Trelna and a team of colony scientists observed from a safe distance as Jace dissected the remains of the drone. They whispered among themselves, astonished. One of them, a tall alien named Vorin, finally approached. "You survived," Vorin said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "And you used tactics we never anticipated." Jace shrugged, wiping sweat from his brow. "Humans improvise, we adapt. We see patterns others miss because we don't follow rules blindly." Vorin blinked. "It is remarkable. The device has amplified your perception, but your instincts, that is uniquely human. Most species cannot act so quickly without guidance." Jace smiled faintly. "Guess you learned something today." That night, Jace sat outside his small dwelling, the twin moons casting a silver glow over the plains. The device was quiet now, pulsing faintly as if resting. He examined it thoughtfully. It was no longer just a tool. It had become a part of him, a key to unlocking potential he hadn't known existed. Yet there was a shadow of concern. The drone had been a test. Something told him it was not alone. The universe, he knew, was rarely so simple. Over the next few days, Jace trained. He experimented with the residual energy in his body, learning to predict movements, sense subtle environmental changes, and react faster than any ordinary human could. He learned to track alien creatures by the faint vibrations they left in the soil, to hear approaching footsteps before they even broke the horizon, and to read the intent of other beings through micro-expressions and subtle gestures. The aliens, meanwhile, observed. They were fascinated, yet wary. Humans were unpredictable, and Jace now exemplified that trait more than ever. One morning, while surveying the southern plains, Jace noticed something unusual. A small herd of alien grazers had wandered from their enclosure. Normally timid, they now moved with a cautious confidence. He crouched, sensing a disturbance in the air. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but he felt it, a ripple of energy, not natural, not animal. Jace moved silently toward the source. There, half buried in the dirt, was a small pod of alien origin. Its surface shimmered with light patterns unlike anything he had seen before. As he approached, it emitted a soft pulse, almost like a heartbeat. Curiosity ignited. Jace knelt beside it. "What are you hiding?" he whispered. The device in his wrist thrummed in response, sensing the alien technology and syncing with it in a way that startled him. Suddenly, information flooded his mind, images, symbols, schematics. It was like the pod was communicating directly with him. The humans in the colony would have taken hours or days to study it. Jace understood it in minutes. He realized it contained advanced energy protocols, potentially a weapon or a tool, but one that required instinctive handling. He carefully lifted the pod, feeling its weight and pulse. Humans, he thought, thrived when action was required, not when rules dictated pace. As he returned to the colony, Trelna and Vorin confronted him. "Jace," Trelna said sharply, "you were not supposed to touch that. It is highly sensitive. One mistake." "And it could also help us survive," Jace interrupted. "Look, I don't follow instructions blindly. I adapt." We humans, we act when we see opportunity, not when someone tells us to wait. Voron's eyes widened. Your species, you are unpredictable. Exactly, Jace replied with a grin. And sometimes unpredictability is what keeps you alive. That night, he studied the pod in secret. The energy pulses responded to his presence, syncing with the residual power from the device. He realized something extraordinary. Humans, when combined with technology that augmented their natural instincts, could operate at a level no other species could match. He experimented cautiously. Small levitations of objects, subtle shifts in energy fields, even glimpses of things moving beyond normal perception. It was intoxicating. His mind raced with possibilities. Humans were not meant to follow, they were meant to adapt, invent, and act. But the thrill was tempered by a quiet awareness. The universe was vast, and the threats they faced were growing. If a single drone could test his limits, what else lay out there? Larger, faster, smarter adversaries. And when they came, he would need every ounce of skill, instinct, and courage to survive. Jace stepped outside, the twin moons reflecting off the metallic plains. The herd grazed quietly, oblivious to the transformation in their caretaker. He clenched his fists, feeling the residual hum in his nerves, and whispered into the night, "Whatever comes, I'll be ready. Humans always are." And for the first time, he understood something profound. This was only the beginning. The universe had underestimated humans for too long. But Jace Corin, a simple rancher, was about to change that perception, one instinctive, daring human action at a time. The days after Jace, Corin discovered the alien pod were restless. The sun rose over the jagged plains of Iridian 7, casting long shadows across the red soil. The twin moons faded from the sky as the heat began to build, but Jace hardly noticed. His mind was occupied. The pod's energy thrummed faintly, synced with the residual power in his nerves from the device he had worn. Humans, he realized, were not meant to just survive. They were meant to adapt, invent, and act. The colony's alert system buzzed suddenly, harsh and insistent. Jace's instincts kicked in before he even touched his communicator. From the ridge above the plains, he could see the source, a column of movement, far too organized and fast to be wildlife, not a single ordinary vehicle or drone. "They're coming," he muttered under his breath, the words tasting like iron in his mouth. The aliens' sensors confirmed it almost immediately. Rogue mercenaries, a faction from the outer colonies, were advancing toward Iridian 7. Their ships were sleek and predatory, gliding over the plains with mechanical precision. These were no mere scouts. They were armed, organized, and ruthless. The colony's automated defenses, designed for small-scale threats, were inadequate. Panic could have spread among the human settlers, but Jace felt a surge of focus. The aliens were already convening in the command dome. Trelna and Voron hovered above holographic projections of the approaching forces, voices rising in tension. "They are faster than expected," Trelna said, her translucent limbs trembling. "We must prepare defenses, all sectors." "They'll never anticipate humans," Jace said, stepping forward. His voice was calm but carried an edge of certainty that caught the aliens off guard. "Machines, drones, mercenaries, they all follow rules. Humans don't. We adapt, we improvise, that's how we survive, and that's how we'll win." Voron regarded him carefully, disbelief etched in every line of his tall, angular face. "Adaptation is useful, but you are just one human. One human cannot stop an entire mercenary force." Jace's eyes narrowed. "Maybe not alone, but one human with others, with instinct, with the willingness to act, can do more than your calculations predict." That afternoon, Jace set out across the plains to assess the terrain. He moved with uncanny awareness, his senses picking up subtle signs. Shifts in the dust indicating vehicle paths, faint heat signatures of enemy scouts, even the vibrations of ground plates several miles away. The mercenaries were coming from the north, following the only passable route through the jagged canyons. It was predictable, but predictability was an advantage for humans. By evening, he had returned to the colony with a plan forming in his mind. "We'll set traps," he explained to a small team of human workers. "Nothing fancy, just clever. Use the terrain, use their assumptions against them. Every rule they rely on will break it." The workers exchanged uncertain glances. Humans were not usually soldiers, but in this colony they had no choice. And they trusted Jace, they trusted his instincts. "First," Jace continued, We'll fortify the plains, dig pits, move rocks, create false trails, force them to follow paths we choose. Second, we'll use the livestock. They can distract, mislead, even trigger sensors. And third, his grin widened. We improvise. Humans do best when nothing goes as expected. That night, under the glow of the twin moons, the humans worked. Jace moved among them, faster and more precise than any of them could be. He sensed weaknesses in every action, corrected every mistake, guided every placement with an instinctive precision that left the team awed. Meanwhile, the mercenaries advanced. Their ships hovered above the ridges, scanning for life, their sensors picking up the humans in the colony. But they were calculating, rigid. Every human move was chaotic, impossible to predict. Jace knew this was their advantage. The mercenaries had technology, but humans had ingenuity. Dawn arrived with the horizon glowing crimson. Jace stood atop a ridge, scanning the advancing mercenary forces. His device's residual energy hummed faintly in his nerves, enhancing his perception. Every movement, every shadow, every vibration told a story. The enemy was powerful, but predictable in its rigidity. The first encounter came mid-morning. A squad of mercenary drones descended upon the plains, moving in tight formation. They were armed with energy disruptors, meant to disable life forms quickly. Jace didn't hesitate. He sprinted across the plains, faster than any ordinary human could, guiding the herd of engineered livestock into strategic positions. The animals moved with surprising intelligence, reacting to subtle cues from him. The drones adjusted, but each step they took played into the traps he had set. Pits and rocks, carefully arranged, caught the drones off guard. A sudden dust cloud, whipped up by the herd, confused their sensors. And when a rogue pulse grenade he had scavenged activated, a cascade of sparks disabled one of the drones entirely. The humans, following Jace's lead, pressed their improvised attack, and the mercenaries were forced to retreat momentarily. The aliens, observing from above, were stunned. "How?" Trelna whispered. "One human is controlling this entire encounter." Jace wiped sweat from his brow, scanning the horizon. "Humans adapt," he said simply. "Machines and rules don't." But the victory was only temporary. The mercenaries regrouped, larger forces moving faster than before, their strategies adjusting, but not enough. Jace's understanding of terrain, instinct, and human unpredictability allowed him to anticipate their moves. He set new traps, moved livestock strategically, and improvised defenses on the fly. Every action forced the mercenaries into chaos while his team remained coordinated, moving with instinct rather than rigid plans. By midday, a critical moment arrived. A mercenary commander, a humanoid alien of imposing stature, descended in a small assault vehicle. Its energy shields flickered as it assessed the battlefield. The humans hesitated, unsure how to engage. Jace did not. He calculated the trajectory, the vehicle's weaknesses, and the timing. Using a combination of terrain manipulation and a clever feint, he forced the vehicle into a shallow ravine where it became trapped and immobilized. The humans cheered quietly, but Jace knew this was only a battle, not the war. The mercenaries had resources, technology, and numbers, but humans had imagination, courage, and unpredictability, a combination the enemy could not anticipate. After the encounter, Jace convened his team. "They'll come again," he said. "Faster, smarter, more prepared. But so will we. Humans survive because we adapt. Rules, patterns, calculations, they can all be broken. We'll do it again and we'll win again." The aliens, including Trelna and Vorin, finally approached him directly. Vorin's voice was measured but filled with awe. "You are remarkable. The humans of your colony, they think differently. They act differently. Perhaps we underestimated your species." Jace smiled, feeling a swell of pride. "We're always underestimated. That's why we keep surviving." That night, as the colony slept under the twin moons, Jace sat alone, the pod resting beside him. Its energy pulsed faintly in harmony with his own. He reflected on the battle, on the instincts that had guided every decision. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, capable of turning even the most desperate situations into triumphs. But Jace also felt the weight of responsibility. The mercenaries would not stop. They had seen the humans' capabilities and would return with larger forces, more advanced weapons, and smarter strategies. The threat was growing, and when it came, the colony would need more than defenses. It would need human ingenuity, instinct, and courage in full force. He glanced at the horizon, where the first hints of dawn began to warm the plains. The wind carried faint whispers of movement, of machines preparing, of challenges yet to arrive. Jace clenched his fists, feeling the residual hum of the device and the pod's energy. He whispered into the wind, "Bring it on, humans don't wait, we act, we survive, and we'll keep doing it no matter what comes." For the first time, Jace realized that humans were not just participants in the galaxy. They were forgers of destiny, creatures capable of defying expectations, rewriting the rules, and turning chaos into opportunity. The mercenaries had underestimated them. And that mistake would cost them everything. The sun rose blood-red over the plains of Iridian 7, casting long, jagged shadows across the cracked earth. The air was thick with tension. The mercenary fleet was closer than ever, a moving shadow on the horizon. The colony's automated defenses were primed, but Jace Corin knew they would not be enough. Machines relied on predictability. Humans thrived in chaos, and today, chaos was about to become their greatest weapon. Jace stood atop a ridge, surveying the approaching enemy. The mercenaries moved in precise formations, their energy weapons glinting under the harsh sun. They had brought more troops, faster vehicles, and larger drones than before. But Jace saw something the enemy did not: rigidity. Every step they took followed patterns. Every weapon fired along predetermined arcs. Humans, on the other hand, moved with instinct, unpredictability, and courage. That was his advantage. "All right," Jace said, turning to the small human team beside him. "This is it. Every trap we've set, every diversion we've prepared, every instinct you trust. You'll need them all. Remember what I taught you. Don't think. Act, adapt, improvise. Humans survive because we act when others hesitate." The team nodded, faces set with determination. None were soldiers, but they had learned from experience that survival depended on ingenuity, not rules. They armed themselves with scavenged energy rifles, improvised explosives, and the tools the colony had provided. And they trusted Jace. "Move," he shouted, and they scattered across the plains, taking positions in the traps he had carefully arranged over the past weeks. The first wave of mercenaries arrived with a roar of engines and a flash of energy. Drones hovered overhead, scanning the terrain, while armored walkers trundled across the plains. Automated sensors detected the humans and livestock, feeding data to the enemy's command systems. But Jace had planned for predictability. Using subtle signals, he guided the herd of genetically engineered livestock into paths that would confuse the sensors. Dust clouds rose, rocks shifted, and the drones miscalculated their movements. Several drones fell into pits cleverly concealed beneath layers of dust and rock. Others were forced to alter their course, following routes Jace had designed to funnel them into kill zones. Jace sprinted across the open ground, faster than any ordinary human could, using his enhanced perception to anticipate enemy actions. A walker fired its energy cannon, but he rolled behind a jagged rock at just the right moment, the blast missing him by inches. His heart pounded, but he moved with a clarity that surprised even him. Every instinct, every decision was perfect. From the ridges, alien allies watched in disbelief. Trelna whispered to Vorin, "How is one human controlling this battle? Every action seems coordinated, impossible." Vorin shook his head. "Not impossible, unpredictable, that is the human advantage." The battle escalated. Energy pulses streaked across the plains, drones exploded in sparks, and walkers toppled into traps. Jace's team moved like a single organism, improvising at every turn. Humans weren't trained soldiers. They were adaptive thinkers, reacting faster than machines could calculate. A mercenary commander, a towering figure in advanced armor, dismounted from a hovering vehicle. He assessed the battlefield, realizing the humans were outmaneuvering his forces. He raised a handheld disruptor, sending a wave of energy meant to disable the humans' weapons. Jace felt it coming. His instincts told him the timing, the speed, the trajectory. He grabbed a teammate's rifle and fired an improvised pulse grenade into the path of the disruptor's wave. The grenade detonated, absorbing and redirecting the energy harmlessly into the dust. The humans pressed forward, taking advantage of the enemy's momentary confusion. Then came the critical moment. A squadron of elite mercenary drones flanked the colony from the west. Automated systems failed to detect them in time. If the drones reached the settlement, destruction would be inevitable. Jace didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the western ridge, eyes scanning for advantage. He spotted a narrow canyon just wide enough for the drones to pass. He smiled. Predictable machines, rigid in programming, would take the easiest route. Humans, however, thrived in turning weakness into strength. He positioned himself near the canyon, planting energy nets and small pulse charges in strategic locations. The drones arrived, buzzing and precise. As they entered the canyon, Jace triggered the charges. Sparks flew, nets entangled their circuits, and the first wave of drones fell like prey into traps. From the ridge, human teammates fired scavenged rifles, adding to the chaos. The mercenaries tried to adapt, but their programming and rigid tactics betrayed them. Jace's plan worked perfectly. Each drone caught in a trap reinforced the next, creating a cascade of destruction. By midday, the mercenaries had suffered heavy losses. Their organized formations were in disarray. Energy weapons overheated, walkers were immobilized, and the drones that survived moved with caution, unsure of where the next trap lay. Humans were everywhere, improvising, adapting, and striking unpredictably. Jace felt the surge of exhilaration. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest species, but they were fearless, resourceful, and daring. That combination was more powerful than any weapon, but the battle was not over. The mercenary commander, enraged, activated a large assault vehicle, bristling with energy cannons and reinforced shields. It moved toward the colony, flattening anything in its path. Automated defenses fired, but the vehicle shrugged off the attacks, pushing forward relentlessly. Jace clenched his fists. He had to think fast. Humans thrived in chaos, yes, but this required bold action, the kind that no algorithm could predict. He sprinted toward the vehicle, analyzing its weaknesses, its trajectory, its timing. "Now!" he shouted to his team. Using improvised signals, he coordinated an attack that combined traps, energy pulses, and strategic herd movements. The livestock charged, scattering debris into the vehicle's path. Pulse grenades detonated, creating energy disruptions that interfered with its shields. Rocks toppled onto its armor at precise moments, destabilizing its movement. Jace saw the moment of opportunity. Timing, speed, instinct, all aligned. He sprinted up a rocky incline, leapt onto the vehicle, and attached a pulse device directly to its power core. Sparks erupted, circuits overloaded, and with a final surge of energy, the massive vehicle collapsed in a shower of debris. The battlefield fell silent for a moment. Dust rose into the hot air. The mercenaries, stunned and disoriented, hesitated. Humans, fueled by instinct and courage, pressed forward. One by one, enemy units fell into traps, miscalculated, or were forced to retreat. From the colony's command dome, Trelna and Vorin watched in awe. "They've done it," Trelna whispered. "One human turned the tide of battle." Vorin shook his head, disbelief and admiration mixing on his face. "We underestimated humans for too long. Their strength, it is not technology, it is adaptability, it is courage, it is instinct." Jace stood amidst the plains, surveying the aftermath. The herd grazed nearby unharmed. Humans from the colony regrouped, exhausted but triumphant. They had survived not because of machines or rigid tactics, but because they acted, adapted, and thought beyond rules. That night, under the twin moons, the humans celebrated quietly, tending to the wounded, repairing equipment, and sharing stories of bravery. Jace sat apart, reflecting. Humans had survived where machines and rigid strategies had failed. Their ingenuity, unpredictability, and courage had turned the battlefield into an advantage no enemy could foresee. But Jace also knew this was only the beginning. The mercenaries had resources beyond imagination. They would return, stronger and smarter. The universe was vast, and threats would not cease. He looked at the glowing pod beside him, its energy faint but persistent. The device in his wrist pulsed softly in rhythm with his heartbeat. Together, they were proof that humans were not merely participants in the galaxy. They were forgers of destiny, capable of rewriting rules, defying expectations, and surviving against all odds. "Humans don't wait," Jace whispered to the night. "We act, we survive, and will keep doing it no matter what comes." And somewhere in the distant reaches of Iridian 7, the mercenary fleet regrouped, unaware that their most dangerous enemy was not their technology, their numbers, or their strategy, but the unpredictable, daring, and resilient humans who refused to yield. The plains of Iridian 7 glowed under the twin suns, scorching yet beautiful. The colony had survived, battered but unbroken. Dust hung in the air, a silent reminder of the recent battles, yet life continued. Humans rebuilt fences, repaired energy fields, and tended the livestock with careful hands, their determination as strong as ever. At the edge of the plains, Jace Corin stood atop a ridge, overlooking the settlement. The pod and the device that had once changed him rested at his side, faintly pulsing. The alien colony leaders observed from a distance, still wary but undeniably impressed. The humans had proven something extraordinary. Survival was not merely about technology or rules. It was about creativity, courage, and action. Jace's mind reflected on the battles that had taken place, the drone ambushes, the mercenary assaults, the desperate improvisations that had saved countless lives. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy. Other species relied on calculations, rigid rules, and algorithms. Humans relied on instinct, adaptability, and the willingness to act when hesitation could mean death. That was why they had survived, why they had won. The colony buzzed with activity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, repairing defenses and tending to those injured in the battles. Despite the exhaustion, hope filled the air. The humans' ability to adapt had inspired even the aliens. Trelna and Vorin approached Jace, their limbs and posture betraying awe and curiosity. "You have done something no other species could achieve," Trelna said softly, her four shimmering limbs tracing delicate arcs in the air. "Your actions, your instincts, they changed the course of the conflict," Vorin nodded. "Humans survive not because of technology, but because of courage and unpredictability. We have misjudged you for too long." Jace shrugged, a wry smile on his face. "We're simple in some ways, but when it comes to survival, we don't wait. We act, that's all. We adapt. We think, but we act first. That's what keeps us alive." Meanwhile, the humans were celebrating quietly, repairing and sharing their stories. Each one had acted bravely, but together they had become a force unlike any the mercenaries could anticipate. Humans were no longer just settlers. They were heroes in their own right, proving that intelligence and courage could overcome even the most advanced technology. But Jace knew the universe held greater threats than mercenaries or rogue drones. Planets far beyond Iridian 7 were teeming with creatures, factions, and challenges that would test humanity's ingenuity. The device and the pod were not just tools, they were keys to potential. They represented what humans could become when instinct, intelligence, and courage were combined. As he walked through the colony, he noticed how humans worked together with a sense of purpose that aliens struggled to understand. They improvised repairs, devised new methods to optimize resources, and even used the livestock to aid construction in ways the aliens had never imagined. It was not just brute force, it was creativity and initiative. The aliens gathered in the command dome to discuss the outcome of the recent conflicts. They debated, calculated, and analyzed every tactic the humans had used. Yet no algorithm or simulation could fully replicate the instinctive decisions and improvisations that had turned the tide. The humans had acted unpredictably, yet with clarity and precision. Back at the plains, Jace tested the pod's energy again. He could feel it resonating with the residual power in his body. Carefully, he experimented, focusing on the principles he had discovered in the last few days. Small objects lifted from the ground, energy flows shifted subtly, and signals pulsed faintly. Each time he felt a deeper connection to the universe, as if the technology was meant to enhance human intuition, not replace it. A group of young humans approached, their faces bright with curiosity. They had heard the tales of Jace's exploits during the mercenary attacks and were eager to learn. "How did you do it?" one asked, eyes wide with admiration. Jace crouched, meeting their gaze. "We humans survive because we act when others hesitate. We look at the world and instead of following rules blindly, we adapt. We improvise, we trust our instincts, and when danger comes, we don't wait for permission." The children nodded solemnly, understanding not just the words but the meaning behind them. Humans, Jace realized, were not born to be controlled or predicted. They were born to lead, adapt, and overcome. The colony continued to thrive, and Jace's reputation spread. Humans in other sectors of Iridian 7 and neighboring colonies began to notice their potential. Rumors of a single human who had outsmarted mercenaries, outmaneuvered drones, and adapted to alien technology circulated. The legend of Jace Corin became a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity. Weeks later, as the colony celebrated the first harvest since the attacks, Jay stood quietly on the ridge, looking toward the horizon. The plains were calm now, but he knew the universe would test them again. Other threats, larger and more dangerous, would inevitably appear. But he was confident. Humans had proven that survival was not about following rules. It was about taking action, thinking beyond patterns, and trusting their instincts. Trelna approached him, a rare smile gracing her shimmering features. "You have done more than survive, Jace. You have inspired humans. They are remarkable." Jace smiled. "We always have been, we just need a reason to show it." That evening, the twin moons rose, casting a silver glow over the plains. The pod pulsed faintly beside him, and the residual hum from the device in his wrist reminded him of the transformation he had undergone. Humans had unlocked something unique, the ability to thrive where others could not, to adapt when the rules failed, and to act decisively in the face of overwhelming odds. Jace looked out across the colony and the plains, where humans and aliens worked together, rebuilding stronger than before. In that moment, he understood that survival was just the beginning. The true legacy of humans was their ability to inspire, to adapt, and to lead. Stories would be told of the humans of Iridian 7, of their courage against mercenaries, and of a single rancher who had defied warnings, embraced instinct, and acted decisively. The universe might underestimate humans elsewhere, but here, on this frontier planet, humanity had proven its value. Jace knelt beside the pod, placing a hand on its cool surface. "You and I, we're just getting started. Humans don't follow rules, they make their own. And wherever we go, we'll survive, we'll adapt, we'll thrive." The wind swept across the plains, rustling the grass and carrying the faint scent of red earth. In the distance, the colony glimmered, alive with movement and energy. Humans had endured, had acted, and had succeeded where others would have failed. And Jace Corin, the rancher who had defied a warning and trusted his instincts, understood the truth that would echo through generations. Humans were not just survivors, they were the architects of their own destiny. As the twin moons climbed higher, casting light across the plains, the humans of Iridian 7 looked to the future with determination. The mercenaries would return, other threats would rise, but the legacy of Jace and his fellow humans would endure. The universe had underestimated them, and that mistake would be remembered. For humans, action was the path to survival, and ingenuity was the key to victory. They had proven it here on a hostile world at the edge of the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget. The plains fell silent, the night deepened, and yet the pulse of life and resilience continued. Jace Corin stood atop the ridge, looking toward the stars. Somewhere out there, new challenges awaited, but he smiled, knowing humanity would meet them. We act, we survive, we thrive. Always.